Hey yo, what's good everybody? Welcome to today's daily breakdown. Today we have another CrossFit benchmark program for everyone. Before we get into the details of that, I want to take 2 seconds and just talk about why we use benchmarks, what to expect, and where to use them in your programming. A couple other notes on the importance of them. So one of the main reasons why we use CrossFit benchmarks is really to help track our progress in training. In times like these, when we're under quarantine or whatever, when stress shows up, it's very easy to get wrapped up in things and feel like my training is not going as planned. And as a coach, where I go to is the data. Sometimes what we think and what we feel is not totally accurate. So starting with data and looking at numbers gives us a much easier place to start from when we want to assess what the hell is going on, whether training is going as planned or not, and why that may be, if that makes sense. So by keeping track of these benchmarks over time, it gives us the ability to do a deeper dive into what training really looks like, what kind of progress you should expect to be making, how often we're testing things. If training is going well and there's a positive balance of work and life and stress and training and nutrition and everything, we should see your benchmarks move in the positive direction. If that's not happening, we can better assess that, but we can't really do that without data and numbers, right? So every time for our program, unless we say otherwise, when we see one of these named workouts, whether that be a hero workout, whether that be a girl workout, or one of the other CrossFit benchmarks, we've also developed a ton of benchmarks ourselves. You should be going into it with I'm going to try and PR on this mentality. Now, I say that, please take that with a grain of salt, because especially when we are doing some of these hero workouts, I'm actually asking you guys to have the opposite mentality, right? But when we make the statement and we say this is a benchmark and that is the approach, well, that is the benchmark and that is the approach. That's what our expectation is, for you guys to push hard, to track the progress on this workout, and just know you're gonna do it again. And it probably, for some of these things, it may not be for a couple of years. However, that's why it's so important. I remember in the early days when I started doing CrossFit, nerding out on CrossFit benchmarks, looking at CrossFit.com was very important to me. And what's very cool about that is there's so much data and there's so much rich history about these workouts, especially like today's. All right, so today we have Nancy. Nancy is 5 rounds for time of 15 overhead squats and a 400-meter run. Now, I didn't have to have someone test this workout. I've probably done Nancy 15 times. It's an easy one to do with little equipment and little time. So ones like Nancy, Cindy, Helen, those are quick go-to workouts for me personally that I've done a ton of. But it's been some time since I've seen someone do that. We did have it programmed for our Team Soul training program before this quarantine started. However, I like watching people do these workouts before I do these videos and before I program them, regardless of what I think they're gonna look like, or if I've seen them or done them myself, just because it re-inspires me and it helps me set the precedent for programming, right? And if we're starting Monday off on that foot, I wanna see it happen. So I invited one of our Team Soul training athletes, Dre, over. He ran through this for us. Not optimal, it was his second session of the day. His training has been a little questionable in quarantine. So his time was 16 minutes in this one, which is going to be more in the intermediate range in this workout. Now, times that you can expect are going to look something like this. Somewhere between the 17 and 20 minute range is what the expectation is if you are a beginner. For intermediates, we're looking somewhere between the 13 and 16 minute range. Advanced athletes, you can expect somewhere between 10 and 12. And the cream of the crop athletes will probably have a time somewhere in the 9-minute range. Okay, so for this workout, the prescription is to do it at 95, 65 pounds with a barbell. However, you do have some options for substitutes. Sean and Frank will talk more about them in the daily video. However, real quick, if you have dumbbells at home, that's appropriate. If you only have one kettlebell that's at home, that's appropriate. What you're looking for is this: full range of motion in the squat and have the ability to lock out overhead in a solid and safe position. okay? These overhead squats, with whatever you're doing them, okay, they should feel fast and light. No matter what weight that you pick, even if you're the guy or girl who looks at this workout and thinks that they need to do it heavier than everybody else, no matter what, the overhead squats should feel pretty light and fast. If 95 pounds, 65 pounds does not feel light and fast, you need to go lighter, okay? As always, the focus for something like this is intensity. And if the goal is trying to fit in one of these respective categories, making sure that we're doing it light and fast is a huge piece to the puzzle. All right, for most people, you may or may not experience some mobility restrictions or limitations. We put a pretty good warm-up together for you guys. However, I would definitely spend some extra time doing lat exercises, doing some rhomboid exercises, opening up the thoracic and your upper spine area. For some of you guys, you're gonna have to spend more time on your ankles than others. More than likely, the reason why people experience any kind of pain or restriction when doing overhead squats is everybody goes to the shoulders, and that may be the case. However, I will challenge you to test your ankle mobility to try to identify if you have any restrictions there, because that is more than likely where that starts. So consider that. A good note that I have, I think it will help a lot of you guys, is try to match your breathing to your overhead squat pace. That will more than likely keep you in check and force you to be more conservative than you probably want to be, especially after watching Dre. It's funny, right? Because, again, I've seen this workout happen so many times. But when Dre would come back from his runs, he would grab the bar, especially on the first 2 rounds, and he would start those overhead squats so fast, and his cycle time was so fast, it was impressive, but ultimately it burned him out. So if I had to give him personally some coaching notes to do this over again, it would be exactly that. Try to match your rate of overhead squat to your breathing rate, and do not let your breathing rate supersede or go faster than your overhead squats, or vice versa. In regards to the run, you're gonna fall somewhere in the 80 to 85% range during the run. That's what you can expect, and that's what you should shoot for. And all in all, guys, I wouldn't say that this workout is more about the running, more about the overhead squats. Obviously, if you have a major weakness in either of those two, you'll be saying different. But overall, this is an aerobic test, and you will more than likely just feel your lungs burn. That's what most of the girl workouts or the benchmarks feel like in CrossFit. So as always, thank you for posting and participating. Please log the score. It's of the utmost importance that you guys start doing stuff like that. Please keep participating with questions, post your comments, and more. Thank you and good luck.